1953, a little girl named Carmen was born into an orphanage. And as the summer skies made pink and cotton candy clouds, and the autumn leaves fell, and the winter rain dropped, on one sad, inevitable Christmas morning, as she opened her donated gifts, a promise was brewing in the little girl's heart that would forever be her Christmas wish. She vowed to God, herself, and her unborn children that when she has her children, they would have unconditional love and the best Christmas ever. Now the time finally has come for her to leave the nest and venture off into a journey of the world. During her journey, she met two men that were not meant to be part of her path. But from these two unions, two gifts were given. But on one sad, inevitable Christmas morning, she began to panic from all the hurt and pain that built up in her heart over the years. She was afraid that she wasn't going to be able to keep her Christmas promise. Sinking deeper and deeper into her sorrows, the nightmare became reality when she woke up in the hospital and her two gifts woke up in an orphanage. But with tenacity in each step and a Christmas promise compelling each breath, she did whatever it took to get her two gifts back. After 7 winters and 7 summers, her gifts were given back to her. But it was a bittersweet moment for all of them. As she sat the both of them down to tell the news, all of a sudden a knock on the door. It was Uncle Chris, who found out the good news that his 2 nephews were home for Christmas. He surprised them with a big Christmas tree. After Uncle Chris left and the dust settled, she continued her conversation, dreading to see the sad looks on her 2 faces as she broke the sad news to them. With a quiver in her voice and tears in her eyes and 2 rolls of Christmas wrapping paper in her hands, she explained that she wasn't going to be able to give them gifts until the new year, which was only 2 weeks away. But for a child, that seemed like forever. Her little gift, Adrian, wiped her tears away. The older gift held her very tightly in his arms and whispered in her ear, "It's okay, we still have each other." After the stabbing conversation, she went to bed early that evening. She cried herself to sleep with 2 rolls of wrapping paper in her hands. Feeling sadder by the second, the 2 boys had an epiphany, how to still bring in a great Christmas to each other. So they decided to swap toys that each other liked. They began to wrap it with the Christmas wrapping paper that their mother had fell asleep with in her hands, and placed them under the bare Christmas tree. Realizing that they had a lot of wrapping paper left, they decided to keep giving, remembering friends and neighbors who liked some of their things. Like Mrs. Johnson, she liked a tape of old songs that they recorded from the radio. And Mr. Bishop, he loved the old African instrument that they got at the secondhand store for only $2. And last but not least, the leader of the Hells Angels, ironically, his name was Santa Claus. He received a puzzle of a sunset. Now using newspaper for wrapping paper, the boys went into a wrapping frenzy, wrapping up miscellaneous items for miscellaneous neighbors. And like Santa's little helpers, they went off door to door passing out gifts to friends and neighbors, and of course making it home before the streetlights came on. Tired and exhausted, but knowing in their hearts they have done something good, they went to sleep contently in their mother's arms. While all was asleep, another knock on the door. The mother got up, making sure not to wake the boys, and it was Mrs. Johnson with ornaments and an angel for the top of the tree, and 3 gifts, of course. Soon after, another knock. It was Mr. Bishop. He brought popcorn on a string, more ornaments, and 6 gifts. Another knock on the door. It was no other than the leader of the Hells Angels, Santa Claus himself, who thought he was the real Santa Claus with a big red bag full of gifts. Shortly after that, there was one last knock on the door. It was one of the miscellaneous neighbors who dropped a miscellaneous box off, and inside the box, it was a little puppy, later they named Lady. Hushing the little puppy, they all continued wrapping gifts and decorating the tree and making sure not to wake the boys. After everyone left, the mother went to sleep with her 2 gifts with a smile on her face. And one thought to be another sad, inevitable Christmas morning, serendipity filled the air when the 2 boys woke up to flickering lights on the walls, still half asleep walking down the hall. While rubbing their eyes and slapping their faces, could it really be a Christmas miracle they were witnessing? Looking at the beautiful angel on top of the tree, panning down to the popcorn on the string and all the ornaments, tears began to fill the little boys' eyes as they looked at presents with their names on it. The mother woke up from all the commotion with a smirk on her face as she listened to laughter, ripping and wrapping paper, and a little barking puppy. Walking down the hall, she stopped at the corner, looking upon her 2 gifts, opening their gifts. The little one heard her chuckle and turned around and ran up to his mother and yelled out, "Hey, you tricked us." She said, "No, I didn't trick you guys. Let me explain." And with a quiver in her voice and 2 teardrops in her eyes and 2 empty rolls of Christmas wrapping paper in her hands, she explained, "Because I gave you all I had from my heart, you gave all you had from your heart. And in return, your friends and neighbors gave all they had from their heart. And that's what Christmas is all about, giving all you have from your heart." And then the 2 little boys laughed. They looked at each other and they ran up to their mother's arms and they both looked up at her and said, "Mom, this is the best Christmas ever." And that's the story of the Christmas wrapping paper. Merry Christmas to all, and remember, Christmas is not about receiving, it's about the giving, even if it's just all you have from your heart.